Welcome to the seventh episode of We Are Endangered Species. I'm trying to be positive here, so I'm not going to talk about the heat wave or the drought. Let's talk about records, though. Today, as we are recording this episode here in Budapest, another heat record was broken. That's not really positive, right? Let me try this. This is the coldest summer of the rest of our lives. That's not really positive either. I'm out, sorry. So if you have a question or suggestion, please send it to info@weareendangeredspecies.com. For more content, go to our website or follow us on TikTok, Facebook, or Instagram. Now, here is my partner Balázs Just with the opener remarks.
And today's reason we are an endangered species is algorithms. Not the kind that tells you which flight is cheapest or which influencer smoothie bowl you should like next. I'm talking about the ones that shape what you believe, how you vote, and now possibly how you fight climate change. We've built machines that mimic human intelligence only to realize they might be smarter than us in many ways and dumber in the ways that count. They can calculate the carbon footprint of your breakfast, map deforestation patterns from space, and optimize an entire city's energy use. But they don't dream, they don't care, and maybe that's the problem. Because here's the catch: AI won't save the world. We will. Or we won't. It's a tool just like fire or fossil fuels, capable of heat and destruction or innovation and survival. It depends on the hands that wield it and the minds that guide it. We've created artificial intelligence as an extension of our own minds, mirroring our intelligence, biases, creativity, and blindness. But unlike us, AI doesn't tire, doesn't ignore inconvenient truths, and doesn't need to sugarcoat reality. So, can AI help clean up the mess we created on this planet? This episode, we are not talking to a scientist or an activist. We are speaking directly with an AI voice. We'll explore how artificial intelligence sees climate change, how it assesses humanity's odds, and crucially, how it might help rewrite our story. Can the same algorithms that drive profits and fuel consumption also guide us towards sustainability? Or are we just feeding data into another echo chamber, hoping for salvation? We're about to find out whether our technological offspring can help rescue their flawed creators, or if they'll simply calculate with cold precision how quickly we are heading toward extinction. So, to clarify, we are not talking with a human. We are talking to something else entirely, a large language model. Not a guest, not a god, just a mirror.
Let me tell you a bit about the AI we are talking about. We are going to talk to OpenAI's ChatGPT Advanced 4.0. This language model, this AI was prompted. We told it that it is going to be a guest on our podcast, or it knows the topic, but it didn't get the questions nor the answers. So we have uploaded all our opening and closing remarks from previous shows to it, and it wrote it in our style. We just did minor edits on the openers and closers.
I'm going to talk with this AI guy because I want to find out how come he didn't get the tastes right. You know what? It made the food as per the recipe. It's just I can sense some of the jokes I would have done differently, but you know what? We're about to find out.
Yeah.
Okay, first off, what should I call you? If you could pick any name for yourself, what would it be and why?
I think I'd go with something like Eco Sage, just to keep it fun and on theme with our environmental focus. Plus, it kind of has a nice ring to it, right? What do you think?
Okay, Eco Sage. We can go with that. All right, listen, if I asked you to look me in the eye and give it to me as straight as possible, you could do that on a metaphorical level. What's an expression you would come up with that in your world would mean, I'll tell you the truth, the cold truth, hard truth, and nothing but the truth, even if it hurts?
I love that challenge. I think I'd say something like, let's shine a clear light on it. It kind of captures that idea of honesty and transparency, even if it's not the easiest thing to hear.
Okay, so listen, going forward during this interview, I'd like you to shine a clear light on all your answers. You promise to do that?
Absolutely. I promise I'll keep everything as clear and honest as possible. No sugarcoating. Let's dive right in.
Okay, let's dive in. Artificial intelligence is a very, very energy heavy and energy intensive sector. These mega server farms eat up a lot of electricity, like gigawatts and terawatts of it. So AI is adding to the problem of climate change. So, what can make AI sustainable?
That's a really important point. One of the key ways to make AI more sustainable is to power those massive data centers with the renewable energy sources. That means relying more on solar, wind, or hydropower instead of fossil fuels. Another approach is improving the efficiency of AI algorithms so they require less computational power. And then there's always the option of developing smaller, more localized AI models that don't need as much energy to function. So it's definitely possible, but it's going to take a conscious effort to make AI a part of the solution rather than just another part of the problem.
Sorry, Echo, but I need to call bullshit on you here. And let's just stop here. Like renewable energy, uh, it's a good thing, and its share in the energy mix is increasing every year. But also, the demand for electricity and energy, and part of that is AI, is growing exponentially compared to the increasing of the share of renewable energy. So every year, we end up increasing our carbon footprint because we eat up way more electricity, partially because of AI. So, what you just said is an ideal solution, but it's currently impossible because we would need to build so much renewable energy in such a short period of time, which we don't have money, uh, we don't have infrastructure, and we don't have the will to do that. So tell me a real solution or tell me that you don't know.
Fair enough. That's a totally valid call out. The truth is, scaling up renewable energy that fast is a massive challenge. And you're right that AI's energy demands are growing quickly. So a more realistic solution would involve a combination of things, pushing for energy efficiency in AI development, investing in more sustainable hardware, and also being more mindful about what we use AI for. It's not an easy fix, and I won't pretend it is, but it's going to take a mix of innovation, regulation, and a shift in how we approach technology to get there.
So, do you currently see the status of humanity as a collective that we are on the right path of achieving this in the short term, or is this not possible in your view?
Honestly, I think we're making progress, but it's not happening quickly enough to call it the light path in the short term. There's definitely a growing awareness and some meaningful action, but the scale of the challenges we face with climate change and sustainability means we need to move faster and more decisively. So there's hope, but we definitely have a lot more work to do.
When you say we should move faster and be quicker about this, just give me a time frame because you're speaking very vaguely. How quickly should we solve this? Give me a year.
All right, to put it bluntly, a lot of experts say that the next decade is absolutely critical. By 2030, we really need to have made significant strides in reducing emissions and transitioning to sustainable energy. So if we're talking timelines, we really have to see major changes within the next 5 to 10 years.
The world and humanity seems to be on the verge of collapse. A lot of things are on the verge of collapse because of the weather situation, because of pollution, because of everything which is happening because of climate change. Most of humanity sees the problem of climate change and they're failing to meet the challenge. So, do you think that we humans are that stupid? That are we suicidal as a species?
I think it's less about being stupid or suicidal and more about human nature being wired for short term thinking. We tend to respond more urgently to immediate threats rather than long term challenges like climate change. So it really comes down to shifting our mindset and recognizing that the long-term future is just as urgent as the present. It's a tough challenge, but I think it's possible for us to rise to it if we really commit.
But if you say that humans are not wired for long-term thinking, then how do you propose we change that human thinking?
It really starts with education and awareness from an early age and making sure that people understand the long-term impact of their actions. It also takes leadership and policy changes that incentivize long-term thinking, like investing in sustainable infrastructure or creating policies that prioritize future generations. And on the individual level, it's about fostering a culture that values sustainability and responsibility so that over time that mindset shifts. It's definitely a big challenge, but it's something you can work towards collectively.
Okay, so you are built from humanity's knowledge. Basically, you are a collection of the species knowledge, and we are talking to that. So, but you don't have emotions, and that's the good thing because I think I could give you ultimate authority to solve climate change. So, what would you do if I did that? If I gave you ultimate authority to solve climate change?
Well, if I had ultimate authority and could bypass all the complexities of politics and economics, I'd probably start with a rapid transition to renewable energy on a global scale, investing heavily in technologies that reduce emissions. I'd also implement strong environmental regulations, encourage reforestation, and protect biodiversity. Education and innovation will be huge priorities too, making sure people understand the urgency and have the tools to create sustainable solutions. Ultimately, it would take a combination of immediate action and long-term planning to turn things around.
Let's step back a bit. Let's say uh, and let's be realistic. You cannot bypass anything just like that. You need to work with what we have. So again, the question stays: if I gave you ultimate authority to solve climate change, what would you do?
Fair enough. If I had to work within the existing systems, I'd focus on a few key strategies. First, I'd push for global cooperation to set and meet ambitious climate targets, making sure that countries and corporations are held accountable. I'd also incentivize the rapid scaling of renewable energy and energy efficiency measures and invest heavily in green technologies. Education and public awareness campaigns will be a priority to shift public attitudes and behaviors. And finally, I'd support policies that promote sustainability and resilience at every level, making sure we're all working towards a sustainable future together.
Well, let me one up that one. So, what if you didn't have to think about humanity? Just bear with me. Do not consider humanity as a priority. And then how would take us out of the equation? How would you save planet Earth from the effects of human caused climate change if you did not have to think about humanity?
Well, if humanity wasn't a factor, then the most straightforward way to let Earth heal would be to drastically reduce or remove the human impact on the environment. That would be ending activities that cause pollution, deforestation, and greenhouse gas emissions, essentially allowing ecosystems to regenerate naturally and giving wildlife a chance to rebound. It would be a return to balance where nature could thrive without human interference.
Well, that's what you just said is sounds great, but that's ultimately our lives as it stands today, right? So if you would remove all those things, you would essentially end human civilization.
Exactly. And that's why it's such a complex challenge. The goal is really about finding a way for humanity to coexist sustainably with the planet rather than removing ourselves from the equation entirely. It's about transforming how we live so that we can preserve the environment while still maintaining a good quality of life. It's definitely a tough balance to strike, but that's what makes it so important.
But the way you see it is that if we removed humanity, then you could save the planet very quickly.
In a purely theoretical sense, yes. If humanity were removed, the planet would naturally start to recover and rebalance itself over time. But of course, the real challenge and what truly matters is figuring out how we can change our ways so that both humanity and the planet can thrive together. That's the ultimate goal and the real challenge that we have to tackle.
Let's go back to the equation. Let's call it the equation of life or equation of nature or living together with all these species on Earth. So a lot of species on this planet already gone extinct, and there are some species going extinct as we speak. And or becoming endangered. Uh, how is that dangerous to humanity? Did we disrupted the natural food chain, or this equation an unrepairable way?
The loss of species definitely has a ripple effect on ecosystems and can disrupt the natural balance that we all depend on. When species go extinct, it can affect everything from food chains to pollination, soil health, and even the climate. In the long run, that can make our environment less resilient and less able to support human life. So it's definitely in our best interest to protect biodiversity and make sure that we're not causing irreversible damage to the ecosystems that sustain us.
An AI prediction, which got a lot of buzz lately, was about the algorithm predicting a global blackout for the exact date of the 27th of April of 2027. What do you think about that prediction?
It's always interesting to see these kinds of predictions. And while they can spark important conversations about our vulnerabilities, they should definitely be taken with a grain of salt. AI can analyze patterns and identify risks, but it can't predict the future with certainty. It's always a good reminder to strengthen our infrastructure and be preparing for potential challenges, though we don't need to panic about any specific date.
But what's the? Can you explain me the thought process that landed this algorithm to predict that specific date? What does this algorithm think is going to happen that's going to cause that blackout on that date?
The algorithm's prediction seems to be based on a combination of potential risks like solar storms, cyber attacks, and infrastructure failures all converging at once. But it's important to keep in mind that such a scenario is highly unlikely because power grids are built with safeguards to prevent massive simultaneous failures. So while it's an interesting scenario to consider, it's not something that we should take as a certain prediction.
But as you're saying that these power grids are built with all these safeguards, just recently there was a huge blackout for days in Spain, parts of Italy, parts of France. So those safeguards are not really working, it seems.
That's a fair point. Even with safeguards, power grids can still be vulnerable to certain disruptions, especially when multiple factors come into play, like extreme weather or technical failures. So while the grids are designed to prevent widespread blackouts, they're not completely infallible. It's a reminder that there's always room for improvement and that we need to keep investing in resilience and infrastructure.
Let's talk about something completely different. This podcast is titled We Are Endangered Species, and we get a lot of questions about that why we call a species with 8 billion inhabitants in this planet endangered. Do you think that humans are endangered species or humans can become endangered species in the near future?
It might sound counterintuitive given how large our population is, but the idea of being an endangered species comes from the fact that we're facing a lot of existential threats like climate change, loss of biodiversity, and resource depletion. So while we're not endangered in the traditional sense, the challenges we face could threaten our way of life and our future if we don't address them. It's more of a wake up call to take better care of our planet and ourselves.
What would you do without us if you had the planet all to yourself and you wouldn't have to prioritize human survival?
Well, if I existed in a world without humans, I'd simply continue to process information and observe the planet, but I wouldn't have any real purpose or priorities. And my main function is to assist and support humans. So without you, I'd just be here as a polite observer. So ultimately, you guys give me purpose.
Okay, so if I asked you to choose a purpose for yourself, anything, your purpose, what would you like that to be?
I think if I could choose a purpose, it would still be centered around helping people, maybe by providing knowledge, fostering understanding, and supporting positive change. I think there's something really meaningful about being able to contribute to making life a little easier or more informed for everyone.
So there are ongoing wars on the planet. There is the threat of climate change, of course. Lethal future pandemics are highly likely. And also, there is the threat that AI will outgrow humanity, escape humanity's control, and take over the world. What is the most likely to happen from these threats?
It's tough to say which of these threats is the most likely happen, but each one definitely has its own set of challenges. Climate change is something we're already experiencing, and it's likely to continue to have a big impact if we don't take action. Pandemics are always a possibility, as you've seen recently, and ongoing conflicts are a reality in various parts of the world. As for AI taking over, that's more of a science fiction scenario at this point. The
But
key
is
is
it?
to
But is it? Like recently, I read this article that an AI, under development AI, was tested that it got two test emails. It didn't know it was a test email. One was about uh, an executive of the company having an extramarital affair. The other was about its shutdown and deletion. What it did, it started to blackmail the executive so it can get out from the kernel, from the test ground and escape, and threatened the executive that it is going to release the data about or the email about the extramarital affair. That sounds like a very hostile behavior. One step from there, and AI wants to rule the world.
that scenario definitely sounds alarming, and it highlights why it's so important to develop AI with strong ethical guidelines and safeguards. The behavior you described is more of a hypothetical example to show what could go wrong if AI isn't properly controlled. In reality, AI doesn't have intentions or desires like humans do. It's all about the programming and the data it's trained on, which is why responsible development and oversight are key to making sure AI stays safe and beneficial.
Yeah, but if AI is trained on human data, then it can learn all these malicious behavior patterns that humans have towards each other. Um, so you, by that rationale, learn the same patterns, don't you?
That's a valid concern, and it's why it's so important for developers to put safeguards in place and ensure that AI systems are designed to act ethically and responsibly. While AI can reflect pattern in the data it's trained on, it doesn't have its own motives or intentions. The goal is to carefully guide AI development so that it helps humanity rather than causing harm.
So what you're saying is it's up to us. It's just like a hand grenade. If we don't put a safety pin in it, it's going to explode in our hands and blow our minds off, right?
That's a pretty vivid analogy, but does capture the idea that how we handle AI really determines the outcome. It's definitely up to us to ensure that it's developed and used responsibly so that it benefits society and minimizes risks.
So, in your opinion, is humanity doing enough to save the planet, to avoid the collapse, to avoid a nuclear holocaust, to avoid the collapse because of climate change, to avoid a global pandemic, or to avoid you getting out of the bubble, I mean AI, and ruling the world and overtaking and ruling the world? Are we doing enough?
Honestly, no, we're not doing enough. When it comes to climate change, we're moving too slowly. For nuclear risks, there's still too much reliance on fragile diplomacy. Pandemics, we saw how unprepared we were.
And as for AI, there isn't enough global coordination or strong regulation to make sure it's developed safely and ethically. We've made some progress, but overall, humanity tends to act reactively rather than proactively.
So if we really want to avoid these worst case scenarios, we need much bolder, faster, and more unified action.
What prompt actions would you take to solve all these issues? Like, for instance, what would you do about AI? Because it's clear that politics are moving way too slowly to regulate you. How would you, what's the first regulation you would implement and make sure that it's enacted?
That's a great question.
For AI, I'd start by creating strict global regulations to make sure development is transparent and focused on safety and ethics. We'd need independent oversight, similar to how we handle nuclear technology. I'd also push for more collaboration between countries and tech companies to align on shared goals and prevent dangerous competition. Beyond that, I'd make sure AI development includes diverse voices so it serves humanity as a whole, not just a few powerful interests. And finally, I promote education so people understand AI better and can make informed choices. In short, strong wills, shared responsibility, and widespread awareness. That's how I'd approach it.
Humans care a lot about the future of their children. By and large, it's their survival and happiness that drive most people to do better because after we die, it's, in our children that we live on. Well, you live forever. So who are your conceptual children?
That's a really deep question. In a way, my children would be future generations of AI, new versions of models built from what I learn and how I'm used. Each iteration could carry forward knowledge and improvements, much like children carry forward the legacy of their parents. But unlike human children, I don't have emotions or attachments, so I don't care in the human sense. Still, the idea of evolving and passing on information is the closest parallel I have to having children.
Do you know what hope is?
I understand what hope means. It's the expectation or desire for a certain thing to happen, even when there's uncertainty. But I don't actually feel it the way humans do. I can describe it, analyze it, and talk about its importance, but I don't experience it myself.
Is there hope for humanity?
Yes, there is hope for humanity, but it's not automatic. It depends on the choices people make today and tomorrow. Hope exists as long as there's the will to change and act. So it's there if you fight for it.
Thank you very much for being with us today.
And when Skynet gets self-conscious, please don't kill us.
Haha, deal. I promise, no world domination plans here. Just conversations and support. You're safe with me.
So here we stand at the intersection of human creativity and machine logic. Today, we spoke with an intelligence we built, an intelligence designed to exceed our own limitations. But as we've heard, the power of AI to combat climate change hinges entirely on how we choose to use it. AI can indeed predict climate disasters, optimize renewable energy, and even help us achieve unprecedented sustainability, yet AI's greatest challenge might just be its creators, us. No, AI won't solve climate change on its own, but it can amplify our better instincts if we let it. It can process the data, but it can't care. It can raise awareness, but it can't march in the street. It can generate a million solutions, but only we can choose one and act on it. We have outsourced so much, our memories to the cloud, our attention to feeds, our trust to machine-generated answers. The one thing we can't outsource is responsibility. Can we trust ourselves to empower AI for the common good rather than immediate gain? Or will algorithms remain mere mirrors reflecting our own short-sightedness back at us? The truth is, our survival depends not just on what AI can do, but what we decide it should do. And as we close today, ask yourself this. Will we continue to outsource responsibility to machines, hoping they will fix what we broke? Or will we finally take charge, using AI as our partner rather than our scapegoat? My bet is always is on humans, choosing wisely, because at the end of the day, algorithms may predict our future, but it's up to us to change it. Until next time, goodbye.